How's it going, Frontrunner family? It's Kamza Mbatha here, just to kind of catch up and catch our breath with what's been a crazy 24 hours. The big news, of course, in South African football and has permutations for African football as a whole is the fact that Pitso Mosimane has decided to take on a new challenge with the Red Devils, aka Al Ahly, and he's been touted as the new coach, set to jump into the hot seat as soon as Friday. Things are moving very, very quickly as far as this appointment is concerned. Both Pitso Mosimane and the club Mamelodi Sundowns coming out to confirm that he has left the club to take on this new adventure. So obviously, we want to break it down and kind of uncover what is at work here. And to help me do that, I have none other than William Shongwe joining me via Zoom. Good afternoon, Mr. Shongwe. Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to the discussion.
Kamza, I'm still trying to catch my breath in as far as what this morning has been like, to wake up to news of this nature. We were kind of like looking at the DSTV Premiership and getting excited about how the league is going to kick off, and looking at some teams getting back on the groove with their preseason. This week has been a big week in as far as the start of preparation for some of the teams. And obviously, for some of the teams, they've acquired services of players from outside of the country. And with tomorrow being the day for the borders to open, so the excitement levels are just unbelievable all around. In the expectation of the players arriving, some are going to be doing medics and just to check if they all are ready to go for it and so on, and seal up the deal. So it's been quite an exciting week. And then if I thought that was enough, and a big bang,
right?
A big bang of astronaut, a magnitude just suddenly fallen us, and I'm still trying to recover. I've been trying to catch up there and then, and calling this one and calling that one. I've been getting floods of calls as well, of people confirming from not only in South Africa but in all the surrounding countries, where obviously maybe they should change as far as information is concerned. And they're like, "Hey, Kuket, just keep us up here. Just keep us updated. What's happening? Is it true?" I mean, the first line is it true? Is it true?
I think everybody is kind of contending with that disbelief, the fact that
Yes.
what seemed like a certain job for life, or one for the next 4 years by the terms of his latest contract anyway, seemed to be Pitso Mosimane at Klorkop, trying to do what he's been doing so successfully over the past couple of years and keeping Mamelodi Sundowns relevant by winning things. And so I guess the immediate thinking for fans outside of the Brazilians family is that now there seems a very good chance that there's more teams in the mix as far as the title race is concerned. People looking at the Sundowns being slightly weaker now that the head coach has left. But how do you see that one? Because obviously, we speak about clubs and having models and having a technical and tactical plan, something that, Mamelodi Sundowns seem very solid as a structure because they are one of the few clubs with a technical director. And so you kind of think that the philosophy is not going to change much, even though the main man has left. What are the implications of Pitso moving north for the challenging of the DSTV Premiership title?
I don't think it's going to change too much. But of course, it depends on the new man that is going to take over. But I guess I'm not going to jump the gun and start assuming who's going to be, and we'll break it down piece by piece. But I'm just thinking to myself, Mamelodi Sundowns is a team that has great interest in the continent, and in as far as a vision, that's not going to change much. But how Pitso maybe did it differently is that he strategized, and he how can I put it? He made it. Just about every season will make a decision, and that this is what I want. I want the championship. If I don't win the championship, but at least I want to qualify to play in the CAF Champions League. That means if he doesn't even get the championship, at least he comes second, such that he qualifies to play. And that would go with a certain way of preparation, whereby even if he's late to come back for the preseason, like he would end up finishing a bit late in the African adventure, whereby his preseason should change. He will not compromise his preseason, even if it means the players will be heavy in as far as the load that they'll be putting in for preseason, whereby it closes on to where the season starts and where most teams are ready. You find that maybe Mamelodi Sundowns are only 2 weeks into the preseason. He doesn't compromise that. He continues with the preseason, and he will sacrifice the first few games of the season and allow them to lose them so that the players are ready to compete seriously in the middle and towards the end of the season, because his target is championship. And people didn't know that. They thought it's just a surprise why Mamelodi Sundowns picks up around that part of the season where they're chasing for the league. No, it was all in the plan. It was all in the preparation, the periodization, in the way that it will load them heavy. They start low, but they will start picking up towards in the middle and towards the end. And there were days he will go 12 games, like winning streak, where he will come back from a backdraft of about, say, 15 points, and he will play and catch up whoever is in the lead. And I think we've seen that a number of times, whereby he will come from nowhere and start chasing for the league title. It's all in the preparation. But I'm not too sure whoever takes over, if they will have that mindset, and whether that will still be the same desire, or will it be given time to maybe walk into the team and get his own structure in as far as players, because that's the other challenge. Players have already been signed, and I don't think Sundowns will be looking for a further budget to sign more players that will suit whoever else that takes you. I don't know, maybe you have an idea. Are we more likely to see somebody, have you heard anything that I don't know in as far as who is going to be jumping in the hot seat?
Well, I mean, early indications would seem that it's all going to be internal. And when I heard that, I thought immediately that, it must mean that Mangoba will take over. But it sounds like the technical director in Mr. Alexanko will come down as far as from his, office down to the pitch to be the new coach. Those are the early kind of murmurs. And, it's one of those things where I guess it's all about continuity. With so little time left, the season kicks off
Yes.
now around the 18th of October. So, obviously they don't want to destabilize the team too much. And so, yeah, I mean, for me personally, I think it would have been good to see Mangoba kind of step up and see if he can make that move from being an assistant to back to being a head coach, as we've known him to do in the past. But it sounds like it might be Mr. Alex Shanko assisted by Mangoba. And word has it as well that Coach Pitso is looking to poach about 2 to 3 personnel from the technical team to take with him to Egypt. So, all of this is obviously there's some, the ramifications of, losing 2 to 3 people for this title winning side could be big. But if there's some sort of, succession plan, which I think would be part of the discussion, they said there was a big meeting between him and the president, Dr. Patrice Motsepe. You would think that around some of those discussions would be, how do we keep this going in your absence? And I guess the cynics will also say that he probably has an opportunity to come back, as we know that bosses in the North are very trigger happy when results aren't forthcoming. So, who knows? I mean, how this one plays out is going to be interesting over the next couple of weeks to months. But, we obviously hope that he can go and make the impact there that he's made here locally, as far as, being able to achieve with a team that is synonymous with success in Ah Ahly. So we'll see how that works out. But it's sounding like things are going to be kept internal. And I think if you're a Mamelodi Sundowns fan, you want that stability. You want the ability to carry on in the same vein that the players have known for such a long time. It doesn't make sense to bring in someone to change things around at such a late stage.
Indeed. I think you have to be reminded as well that Alessandro has been around for maybe the past 2 seasons. It's just that his appointment as a technical director for the team was the most recent one. But he's been there, I think last season, he was looking at the development structures. That's where he was. I've had the opportunity to meet him, of course, and discussed quite a number of things. And I mean, he comes from Spain. And obviously, Mr. Motsepe, you have to be reminded that he's got a great relationship with Spain football. he's been able to bring the likes of Barcelona to play Mamelodi Sundowns. So
Right.
I think there's a long and ongoing relationship between the two parties. But you spoke about some of the personnel maybe being, nicked out of the Mamelodi Sundowns. Yes. I obviously jumped to the opportunity earlier on today to speak to one of them, and who is actually not too sure at the moment whether he's coming or going. I'm, I'm talking Rulani Mukwena. His feeling is that the president has just called him back to the team, and he doesn't feel too comfortable to jump out of the ship as quick as that. And he's very, very uncomfortable about it. But what he said very clearly is the money is good.
Well, for sure. I mean, it's the numbers being kind of bandied about of about 270,000, US dollars a month. It's not
Man,
chump
oh
change.
man.
It's not chump change. This is one of those things where it's a life-changing appointment as far as the financial security. I mean, not that he needed it, but these are kind of opportunities when you have a top job and it pays well, and someone is coming to fetch you. I think that says a lot about how they see him and in what high esteem they hold him. But to Rolani's point, yes, I totally understand with him saying that, what, I've just been brought back into the fold. But, if he's going to learn and become an even greater asset to the likes of Sundowns and other South African clubs when he's finally ready to take on that challenge of being a head coach, this could be that kind of sabbatical, that he supposedly took, but one to a tougher league where they don't know the culture. But I'm sure once immersed in it, he can come away being a lot stronger tactically and as a coach after the whole experience. So I don't know. Is that maybe part of his thinking as well?
Yes, clearly the opportunity is there for him to be able to take, and he's a very adventurous coach. And you got to be reminded where he comes from the lack of Platinum Stars when he was still working with Steve Komphela, and then moved into the development structures of Mamelodi Sundowns. And he was just there being another coach, but they saw what they saw. I'm talking the likes of Pitso and Mangoba, and they were happy to drop him, to promote him into the first team, and his contribution was very evident. And him taking the position at Orlando Pirates, even as an assistant coach, was something else. It showed the ambition that the young man does have, and he also didn't let go of the opportunity when it came for him to be the head coach. It might not have worked, but it gave him a world of experience like no other coach would have had. I mean, to have been coaching two of the biggest teams in the country as an assistant and as a coach at his stage, at his age, it's massive. And to be brought back in a space of 2 months and have the privilege of lifting two cups, it's like he's riding the crest at the moment. And I think when he had this, he thought to himself, "Am I dreaming? Here we go again." Because that's how it's been. The season has been like for Urulane. It's been like, where am I going next? And it's the wave just has been carrying him left and right. And he must have thought that this is another wave. Where is it carrying him? But I could sense when I spoke to him that is that a reluctance about the decision, as much as he loves it. But I think maybe it might take him talking to the president. What will help is the president, because at the time when I spoke to him, he wasn't even too sure who is going to be the man at the helm. Because sometimes when new coaches comes in, they bring their own technical stuff. But now that we have an idea who might come in, so I don't think. I think what he said, it will take him to talk to the president for him to actually clear his mind about whether he's taking the offer or not. So I don't know when is that going to happen. It's been funny enough. I was going to spend lunch with him today. This morning he calls me, says, "I'm sorry." Yes, he tells me, "I'm sorry, Mr. Shongwe, there's an emergency." I'm like, "Come on, son, what are you doing to me?" And that time, at that stage in time, I didn't know what was happening. And then I saw
Right.
the news coming through, and I'm like, "You didn't tell me." He says, "I couldn't tell you then."
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, it's one of the best kept
So
secrets, I must say.
I'm still obviously, I'm hoping that I'll still get my hour of lunch, and maybe I'll have a little bit more than I would have had then before this incident.
There we go. Yes, your patience might be repaid with more
Mm,
information around this. Let's talk about Mamelodi Sundowns and where Coach Pitso found them 8 years ago. I mean, they are one of the premier clubs, but I think it's fair to say at that time they were kind of being eclipsed by the two Soweto Giants. He kind of came and took them by the scruff of their neck, and they're the most relevant team just because they're the most winningest team in the last couple of seasons. Let's talk about that journey. Where do you think you found them, and where has he brought them in those 8 years?
You know, I often hear people talking about how privileged Pitso is because the checkbook is wide open. He's got an open checkbook whereby he can sign whoever he wants. But that is not new. People must understand that even the previous coaches, they were given this very same checkbook. And unfortunately, they weren't able to achieve the same feat that Pitso has been able to. So alongside the open checkbook, he still had to contribute his own magic to make it work. And his introduction, of course, remember, he was in the doldrums after having been fired by SAFA, and he didn't have a job. He was just there and there. And then was brought in. He was brought in into a sinking ship, basically. Not necessarily sinking, but for the standards that Mamelodi Sundowns are at. Like you said, you mentioned earlier that they're a cup winning side. The winning mentality is what drives them as a team. So that wasn't happening for the club. And he came in the middle of the season and stabilized things and waited for the next season to be able to get into the groove with what he thinks will do for him. And it's been magical since he took over. I mean, what he was able to achieve this last season, besides the CAF Champions League, I think for me, this last season, we haven't had a team winning a treble in a long, long time. The last time was Orlando Pirates, quite some time back. And he's come and done it, and under very difficult circumstances. And, I have the privilege, of course, to now and then talk to them. I mean, for me, even now, just before they got onto the bubble, even when they were in the bubble, I got snippets of information of where they were at, how he was able to drive the team, just to continue to believe, to say, hey, look, let's do our part. And obviously what he has learned in the process is to play the psychological game, whereby he gives the opposition the feeling that he's out of it, he's lost the chase and is not chasing for it anymore. And it's working for him. That actually helps the players to calm down because they don't feel the pressure that the opposition is feeling. He's taking the pressure. But what you don't know, Kamza, is what was going on in that bubble. It's like you don't want to have been beat.
I lost your sound there for a sec.
Things were
Go ahead.
Things were incredibly tough for the team, but how, as a technical staff, we're able to continue to mold the players whereby none of the incidents that were happening within were affected their performance. And they continue to believe, they continue to work on what they could, what was in their control. And amazingly, on the last game of the season, they were able to back the title and then went on a week later to back the Nedbank Cup. And incredible. So that's who the man is. And his achievement doesn't surprise me. Spending time with him, by the way, when we were at Bafana Bafana, 2006 will be remembered as the most disastrous year for Bafana Bafana as far as their African nations' final ambitions were concerned, where we came back without a win. I spent a good time with him, and thereafter he was given the position as a standing coach while they were waiting to finalize the contractual agreement with Carlos Alberto, the Brazilian. And I spent quite a good 2 seasons with Bafana and Pitso Mosimane. Even when Carlos came, I was still a part of the technical staff. And the man is very ambitious. This is not coincidental that he finds himself in this position. I mean, even when he was brought in, he was like, look, I've always wanted to find out this environment. I've always wanted to know what it is to be in the national team structures. And I'm very grateful that I'm here. And just looking at this environment, you know what? I think I can do this. I think I'm in the right space.
Hmm.
Even if I don't do it, but you know what? This for me is giving me the experience to dream even bigger. So for him, this place, this platform that he has always been his dream. But I think now, getting the chance, not too many will tell you that they've been to Egypt and they coach one of the biggest teams there. So I don't know what's going to be next for Pitso Mosimane. Maybe overseas, or maybe those those Arabic type of rich countries. I'm sure, with his whatever success he brings to Al Ahly, maybe that will be his next trip.
No, for sure. I mean, he kind of catches the team at the opportune time. I think they've got about 4 games left in their regular season. Al Ali have pretty much run away with the league, which means that he'll get there and be able to see it through, see what he's working with as far as the team is concerned. I'm sure he's keeping tabs
Mm.
on them anyway as an astute coach. But at the same time, you'll have now an opportunity after the season's done to have a preseason and do his work, which makes it quite exciting. I mean, it's nice to kind of see a coach brought in not to steady the ship, but to kind of
Yes.
rebuild his own ship. In a sense, and he'll have a chance to do that. They've got 4 games left of the season. They've got a cup that they need to want that they're playing for this evening. In fact, so the timing. To you, how does that feel? I mean, does it feel like they kind of got it right to make sure they get him before the regular season starts here locally, so that there's less of a disruption? Do you think it's kind of been managed well, this whole situation?
You know what? For me, that was actually one of the biggest question marks that I had. To say, why would they bring him at a time when the team is doing so well? What would have been the problems with the other coach?
Mm.
Or are they looking at the next season already, whereby they would like him to have a feel of what it's like with the 4 games and the cup, and then obviously have a little bit of time to set up the structures going into the next season? I couldn't quite, and I guess for Pito, he's going to have a very soft landing as far as his new job, because the pressure is not as much. But those fans, the Red Army in Cairo Stadium, is the expectation is such that whether they're running away with it, they'll still want him to make a statement of whether they're running away with it. They just love winning. That's just the culture in that part of the world.
There we go, and they've got a winner. Just to bring up the president's statement when he was talking about Pitso Mosimane in his note, he did actually say that Jose Ramon Alexanko will continue in his current role as technical director and will carry on the good work that he's doing at the academy. Sundowns will focus on preparing for the upcoming season and ready to compete in South Africa, Africa, and globally. So he also says they'll make announcements in due course concerning the new head coach and other changes that they're introducing. Sundowns has over the years developed and trained very good local coaches and has a strong technical team. So read into that what you will, but it sounds like uh, I guess we're right on one count that it sounds like it might still be an internal hire and that they might keep things within the club. But it seems like Mr. Alachanko will
Mm-hmm.
carry on in his role of TD. Is this the time for
Yeah.
Mangoba to step up?
Hey, why not? Mangoba is a head coach. He's had that experience as head coach. We've seen him coach at Golden Arrows, where he cut his trade, and we saw him move to Amazulu. We saw him spend maybe the shortest coaching period at Tipo United, and but he's a coach. Actually, when he was still doing courses with the likes of the late Thomas Madihache, he came back with some very interesting experience that he had with Mngomangiti in class. I mean, his presentations were of the highest class. Remember, the guy is a teacher, so he's very articulated when he's doing presentation. And they used to call him the professor. And I guess they support from just the fans around. In fact, I saw quite a number of tweets already this afternoon saying, let Mangoba
Job.
be
Give him the
given
job.
the
Give him the
job.
job for sure.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Like I said, he's not going to feel like out of as as a coach, as a head coach. So that is important. I think that's the first and foremost thing. So give him a chance. Let's see what the man can do. He's been humble. He's played the second role, experience under Pitso. It's his time. How many years has he been there? About 3 or 4 seasons
Yeah,
already?
I know. I mean, it's been a
Please.
while. Yeah, for sure. He's best placed, I think, is basically what you're saying, to take over from Pitso Mosimane, having kind of been there and there solidly. He's not taken other head coaching positions when they've popped up. He's not done anything like that. He's really been very loyal to the cause. So
No.
I think it's only natural that they maybe look at him. Did you ever get a sense from speaking to Coach Pitso that he was unsettled or dissatisfied with certain things in and around the club at Mamelodi Sundowns? I tell you why I ask, because obviously, you look at this opportunity, people will think about the prestige, will think about the pay package, will think about the opportunity cost involved for him to go over to Al Ahly. But, some will also say that things weren't always good. I mean, just as recently as yesterday, we were talking on the podcast about how some people within the club were hoping that the treble didn't happen and that they do get dragged over the coals over the Langaman thing. So dark forces, as they were, existed within the club, some believe. Do you think that might have had anything to do with his decision making?
Let me put it this way. I guess the decision to resign was made easy. I don't think it is something that we wanted. I mean, when you're riding at the top of the crest of the wave, like he has been, it's like, no ways. You can't tell me that we want to leave now. This is the best time to be able to continue. And on top of that, he's just signed a 4-year contract. And for me, maybe that's where the story starts. How that contract negotiations lingered for the longest period, tells you that something might have been simmering underneath that obviously we weren't quite exposed to. There was definitely things. His stay, as successful as it has been, but the feeling, some feel like maybe sometimes he's too territorial when it comes to his platform as a coach, whereby what used to happen for some of the official is they had quite a lot to do as far as helping the team. But with Pitso in charge, things suddenly become very difficult. It became his baby and his baby alone. And I don't think that settled too well with some of the people that were there for the longest period of time helping underneath the team. But the thing is, you couldn't actually challenge him because the man was producing the results. And so you can't, yeah. But I think it's all rumors. You have to have been inside to actually get the full basis of what exactly was going on. But it was clear that there were certain segments of management that at the helm.
Okay, let's talk about the implications of the signings. On the signings, I guess, I guess with the fact that there's a technical director who's working with Beats, or you think that, the players that were brought in by the club and not by a particular individual, meaning that they were brought in to kind of bolster the project that is currently on the go. And of course, part of that project is regenerating the squad and refreshing it, bringing in younger players to play alongside some of the more experienced ones, and essentially do a bit of a handover in the middle of the park, I guess, on the pitch between the older winning generation and getting that mentality into this younger generation. As much as they'll be disappointed not to work with Coach Pitso, what do you think is of their future? I mean, are they walking into a sound system that'll see them flourish under what's been built during the tenureship of Coach Pitso Mosimane?
I believe that's how it's going to be, because it means the fact that they were handpicked to be able to join Mamelodi Sundowns is because it was realized in earlier that they could fit into the start. For me, but I look a little bit of a difference into the signings that were brought in. Remember, in the last 2 seasons or so, they didn't play with the top men. And you look at the players that were recently signed, like Matupa for one, and he brings that top man experience. And it's good to have a variety of players in your team that you can play them in certain time, not maybe from beginning of a match, but games are different. You can plan the game you're going to play according to the team that you'll be up against, in the way that they defend. So some teams need a top man. Some teams need the two number 10s attacking at the same time. And you need an Alfonso. There are games that you need an Alfonso who is big and strong, is not as mobile, who maybe will play with a lot of crosses to be able to finish. So the variety of players that they sign, for me, they just suit all the different styles. I think I've spoken about his approach, Pitso having been there for the longest at Mamelodi Sundowns, that he's introduced different styles in one game, whereby you could just change the approach depending on which way the game is going. I think one experience that we saw in recent time was when he played against Kaiser Chiefs, and how he was able to score that goal, and then from there just set something that we didn't know in the past. And he parked the real bus in the true sense of the word. and uh, this is unusual, but that is how far he has grown with his game. There are certain players that he uses in certain moments just to impact the game in a certain way at certain times of the game.
And I guess that's what they're paying for when they, get him in this contract. You're paying for someone to come with solutions. You're paying for him to be able to troubleshoot his way out of scenarios that are going to get a W in the win column. You know what I mean? Is is he basically our best football mind export? And how can we kind of take heart from this appointment in terms of our coaches going out into the rest of Africa and trying to do something? I mean, we know Thabo Senong is with the Lesotho national team. Now we've got Pitso going to Egypt. Surely, he's heralding a new era for our coaches to try and test themselves outside of our borders.
I'm actually very impressed by this. And yes, we've had sheikhs going to Namibia, to Swaziland, in fact, and we've had Umlungis Ngubane going to Namibia, and but that is in the Kosafa region. And I think it's the first of its kind that we had a coach going into the home of football in a way. When you talk about what those teams, the Northern Giants, have been able to achieve, they are the kings of African football, and everybody else is trying to get to where they are. And to get a break of that nature, certainly for me, I think should he make it, should he be successful, it will open up a very big window for some of the coaches locally. We've always been a country that imports coaches into the country, and very few has been exported. And this, I think, will open that very window whereby people will realize that the success of Mamelodi Sundowns is not only with one team. There's a whole lot of other teams that obviously are producing good enough quality of coaches to be able to campaign at that level. And in fact, we've seen a flood of coaches. The success of 1996 Bafana Bafana squad has kind of helped as well, that a lot of coaches come through from that crop of players. If we just look through quickly, the likes of Eric Tinkler at Maritzburg United, and doing very well. You can Steve Kombela was not a part of that squad, but he's also coming from a situation where he's grown from playing for Bafana Bafana into that coaching platform. There's many more that are coming up that obviously we're looking forward to, whereby they can actually rise to the occasion. But take nothing from Pitso. This just didn't happen overnight. The man is a hard worker. The part that I'm going to lose is this moment during the off season, whereby I'll sit down with him, just like I was going to actually spend with Rulane. It's our annual event for me, myself, and Peter. But he wasn't available this time. That I thought Rulane could actually help me, and this is what I want to continue to do. And it's difficult. You don't get to get that opportunity with all the coaches, but whoever I can get to sit down and chat, I take the opportunity. So I think that's where we're going. Basically, the market is opening up for South African coaches to be recognized internationally.
And then lastly, what does this do for the title race? Obviously, you kind of removed one of the key figures from the picture at Mamelodi Sundowns. As much as we can talk about their philosophy, as much as we can talk about continuity, does this kind of give the likes of Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates a bit more of a look in as far as their prospects for the league title are concerned this season?
Um, I think this will certainly set the cat amongst the pigeons. In a way, you first have to look at Gavin Hunt going to Kaizer Chiefs. I think the title is long overdue to arrive in Naturena. And the same can be said for Orlando Pirates. So you see, there are teams, and you look at how long it has taken Super Sport United to bounce back to where they can compete again. They came this close. They were basically title chasing up until the last few games. So Super Sport is a league winning team. Do not forget that. And I think their success this last season could also put them in a position where they think to themselves, you know what, we definitely have something here. You know what? I was talking to Mr. Sokele of Amazulu, Lunga, yesterday. I was just obviously doing the same thing, just asking him about what he feels. He says, you know what happened this last season is not going to happen again, not for Amazulu.
Right.
This coming season, we are going to be competing for things. You know, at least even if it's one cup, but definitely top eight, not less than the top eight. You know, a cup and not less than the top eight. So, the aspiration for most of these clubs, and when they hear Pitso is going, I'm sure they'll think, yeah, yes,
Yes. Yeah, no, the Al Ahly
bring
chairman
it on.
a lot
Give
of
it a chance.
bottles of wine being sent to him from the southern tip of Africa. A lot of clubs here are going to be sending a thank you card and a bottle of wine to Al Ahly for taking Pitso out of the picture as far as being the head coach and giving the other clubs a bit of a chance this upcoming season. Okay, so I mean, we're looking at a situation here where in terms of the cultural impact, I guess South Africans now are going to actually be paying attention more to what's happening in the Egyptian league and these tussles that he's going to be involved in, because obviously now we have some skin in the game as South Africans.
Without a doubt, that is only natural. He's one of our own. Yes, he might have been just a Sundowns coach, but when you leave and go to compete outside, just like when a South African team goes to compete in the CAF Champions League or Confederation Cup outside, it becomes a case of we own it. It's ours. They're with us. So I think in the case of Pitso, we'll definitely be very, very interested. And I think there's going to be quite a large following into the Egyptian league, and it's excellent. It has taken a long time for the South African people to understand that there's football outside of South Africa, and honestly, people just didn't pay much interest. I can never forget the Super Cup. These are two title-winning teams. I forget the team from Algeria, and against Orlando Pirates in the Super Cup. Pirates had won the Champions League then, and this team from Algeria had won the Confederations Cup. We had the privilege to have the game played at the FNB Stadium, and I'm telling you, the stadium was empty. You would have thought that maybe Golden Arrows and Amazulu have been taken from Devon. They've been asked to come play in Joburg, where they don't have fans. It was so disappointing, but people didn't understand the magnitude of the tournament. It was a Super Cup, two of the best teams on the continent, and yet the stadium was empty. So I think it has taken time, but people have fallen in love with African football, and things are changing definitely. So this will just be another opportunity to open up the minds of South Africans to follow other leagues around the continent.
Man, it's exciting times we're living in. And of course, now obviously with Sundowns and Orlando Pirates being involved in African competition or having finished in the places for African competition, it's going to be quite a mind trip to see one of those two teams, or if not both, come up against an Al Ahly side that is being led by Pitso Mosimane. So, I mean, that in itself is quite a interesting prospect, because obviously, imagine a clash between Sundowns and Al Ahly with Pitso at the helm of Al Ahly
Unbelievable.
and Mangoba Mngqithi on the other side. I think that's the stuff football dreams are made of. So we hold, we keep our fingers crossed that we get to see that kind of a matchup. Bro, Willie, thank you so much for your time and for your reflections. Any last words or thoughts about this whole saga before I let you go?
Listen, you said we're living in exciting times. It can only get better. This league, South African football, is at a stage where I think it's bound to hit the right notes, not only continentally, but around the world. And you spoke about Pitso having an encounter with Mamelodi Sundowns. I think it's just going to be unbelievable. I mean, for me, I can't wait to see. I mean, even locally, just to see the start of this new season, it's just incredible what is happening behind the scenes. Team signing and the DSTV Premiership also coming on board. And you just get the feel that, you know what, we definitely are living in the right times as far as our football is concerned. It's a privilege to be part of the game in these times. Thank you.
You left me with an unbelievable. So that's a good note to end the conversation on. I wasn't going to end speaking to you without getting an unbelievable out of you. And so I got one there. Thank you very much, William Shongwe. Really appreciate your time and your impressions as always. Wishing you all the best for the rest of the week and all the best for the upcoming season in the DSTV Premiership, sir.